Hello, welcome. My name is Charlotte. I love colorful, sparkly makeup, but I don't love capitalism. Reconciling those two things is what my channel is all about, and it's also what this video is going to be all about. So, if you love makeup as well and you feel compromised by your love of makeup, then please like, subscribe, etc. And obviously, lots of other people on YouTube are trying to grapple with these same thoughts. Basically, the subject that I want to talk about today is my no-buy, my 6 months no-buy that I've been doing since February of 2023. I found it really informative. It's definitely going to inform the way that I consume makeup in the future. So obviously, it's not a secret that on the internet, makeup and purchasing things are really closely tied. Just as a baseline, this is uncomfortable to me, it doesn't really align with my values. I believe that consumption has a big footprint and we need to be careful about what we consume. I also just think that in the beauty space, maybe uniquely, maybe not, but compared to other hobbies and crafts and forms of artistic expression, I think it's like very normalized in the beauty community to talk about brands, to talk about things in terms of products and launches, and just to like continue to have this consuming vocabulary around talking about like applying and using and loving makeup. And I think that definitely blurs the line between content and advertising. A lot of people follow brands on social media. I just think everything in the beauty space is like extremely mixed together, and it can really confuse loving makeup with buying makeup for a lot of us. So I was uncomfortable with that, like in terms of values. Like I'm uncomfortable participating in that and aligning myself too closely with corporate makeup brands, especially mainstream larger makeup brands. Hi, I just wanted to jump on and say that I filmed this back in June, and I've since watched Hope Mess Tom's video on shame, which I highly recommend and will link below. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I definitely am not like judging other people or trying to shame other people for how they navigate the makeup space. And I'm also not saying that I have all the answers. Like, I'm definitely still trying to figure this out for myself. But I'm just talking about my own discomfort, my own participation, and my own shame. How I personally am trying to navigate all of this while still feeling good about the way that I participate in the makeup world, if that makes any sense. And it felt like it was starting to impact my spending, the way I spent my time, and just really my brain and my thoughts. And the genesis of my no-buy was when I felt like I no longer had control over my thoughts and over my purchasing behavior. So like that doesn't feel good. Like, I just felt like beauty brands and the whole consumerist system and cycle had really taken away my own agency, it felt like. And what I mean by this is like, I was thinking about buying makeup, not just makeup, but I was thinking about buying makeup like all the time. It was I was always in this state of thinking about what I was going to buy next, whether I should buy it, especially because I had gone into 2023 being like, I'd like to have a budget, I'd like to just know what I'm spending on makeup, get a handle on my spending, and tamp down my desire. And so embarking on sort of a quote unquote, like what I was thinking of as a low buy 2023, I found that sort of only added to the obsessive quality of like my thoughts around buying makeup, because I had this limited budget and I was constantly desiring things and seeing things on social media that would inflame my desire. And yet I was also constantly trying to tell myself no because I had this budget. And that just put me in a never-ending state of deciding whether or not to buy things and trying not to buy things. And it really created this obsessive pattern of thoughts that center buying things, Like, if you're thinking about not buying something, you're still thinking about buying it, And thinking about buying or not buying something, you're probably gonna end up buying it. because you're obsessing. So I was in this pattern where like I would see something that I wanted, I would look it up, I would put it in my cart, I would think about it, I'd be like, okay, this is going on the wish list. I'm gonna wait, you know, I'm gonna like do all those things that you're supposed to do, wait a few days, wait a week. But those few days or that week began to feel like unbearably long. And I would be checking back and checking back. I would be obsessing that something was going to go out of stock or be discontinued. And at the end of the day, like I knew that I was going to buy it anyway, even as I was constantly trying to talk myself out of buying it. Like I wasn't the one who was making that decision. And the other thing is that the entire time I was obsessing about it and refreshing the page, I wasn't doing other things and I wasn't thinking about other things. And there's nothing creative or fun about that. That has nothing to do with the fun and artistic side of makeup. It was a total waste of my time and energy and thoughts. And, you know, we don't have time and energy and thoughts to spare. And I was just really uncomfortable with the extent to which desire had taken over my brain and was controlling my actions and my thoughts. And the result of this, like including all the lost time and the agony and the like the emotional like psychodrama, I ended up spending 4 months of budget within the first month of my low buy year because I was so obsessed with spending that money in a smart way that it had taken over my thoughts and I no longer had the ability to resist. So I was like borrowing money from future months. Now thankfully it wasn't like a scary amount of money that I spent, and it had actually been like a pretty ambitious budget for me, you know, in hindsight. But had I continued spending at that rate for the whole year, I would have blown my budget out of the water, and that would have approached a scary number for me and my income level. And it was also a distraction. It was a sense that I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it until I had made the purchase, and it was such a suck on my brain that I would just make the purchase. So what I decided was to just go on a no-buy. I'd watched Hannah Louise post in the past, you know, a lot of people doing no-buys, project panning, anti-consumerist beauty projects of some kind or another. And I had made the decision initially that I didn't need a no-buy, but the experience of attempting a low-buy convinced me that I did. Yeah, I needed an automatic no, and I needed to be able to escape from the feeling of deciding whether or not to buy something. I also hoped that by forcing myself to sit inside of my desire and not do anything about it, that I would be able to sort of reset my brain and stop desiring things. I think Hannah Louise Poston talks about, like, right after her no-buy, she went shopping, and it's been a while since I watched that video, so I don't know if I'm gonna get it right, but if I recall correctly, she had the experience of just wanting less than she was used to wanting after a full 12-month no-buy. So that was another hope, was that I could just sort of like cold turkey, reset my brain, no longer, just sort of like break a sort of addiction, which, spoiler alert, hasn't happened. But I'm gonna jump into talking a little bit about how it's been going. Hi again. The video was getting really long, so I had to cut a bunch of stuff, but basically what I was saying was just that I was doing a replacement only no-buy, and that I built in a couple of exceptions for when I was traveling. So I did end up buying a lipstick and a perfume, which I was kind of considering part of the whole thing. So those were two purchases that I had made during the no-buy prior to filming this video, but I counted them as exceptions and didn't count them toward like the no-buy. I also made two replacement purchases. So I got an eyeshadow, not eyeshadow, no, eyeshadow does not need replacing. I got a mascara and I got a new eyeshadow primer. And if I'm honest with myself, I know that I used the eyeshadow primer as a pressure release valve because I bought a $24 Rare Beauty eye primer that, you know, normally that's not an exciting category of makeup and I wouldn't spend a lot of money on it, but I recognized in myself like a desire to try something new, and I decided to let myself do that. That was back in April, so relatively early in the no-buy, so it was in part sort of a a way that I wanted to make sure I had success, by allowing myself to use that replacement as an opportunity to sort of also try something new, even though it fit within the rules and the spirit of the no buy. So I think, like, overall, I think it's important to be realistic and to allow yourself leeway where you know you're gonna need it so that you can set yourself up for success. Does that make sense? So I don't regret buying that eyeshadow primer. Okay, so I'm sort of starting to segue into how it's been going. It has been challenging. Like, I've watched some people on a no buy who feel that it's a relief immediately, or who feel after a few weeks or a couple of months that their desires start to become less present. I have found it to be a challenge, and I find that I do still have desires. And I'm 5 months of the way through my 6-month no buy, and I still desire a lot of makeup all the time. I think about it a lot too, although less obsessively, because it's easy to just be like, oh, automatic no. But I still watch beauty YouTube. I still occasionally get overwhelmed with desire. Yeah, recently I had the experience of I was traveling for 2 weeks and I didn't bring a lot of makeup, just some like more boring like Project Pan eyeshadows. But I was watching a lot of YouTube content about beautiful indie single shadows, and I was desiring those shadows, but I was also desiring shadows I know I had in my collection at home, and I was regretting like not bringing more of it with me. But this was one of my goals with the no buy, was to make myself sit inside that, not do anything about it. And I did. And I came home, put some beautiful eyeshadow on my face that I already owned. It was fine. Throughout my no buy, I've kept a very long wish list. I've put things in my cart and not checked out. I have eliminated things from my wish list over time, which I think is progress, because in the past, like if I hadn't gone on this no buy, I probably would have purchased all those things that I later decided I didn't want. But yeah, the undeniable result of my experiment is that my brain has not been reset. I still desire makeup just as much. But there are also some positives. First of all, my no buy has objectively saved me a ton of money. Like, if I had continued on the low buy, I think I would have, either spent a lot of money or spent a lot of time trying not to spend that money. And because I was on a low buy, I sort of easily saved all that money. So that's amazing. I've also figured out what my priorities are when it comes to makeup consumption, and watching a lot of indie single shadow content on YouTube has really helped solidify that. I'm an eyeshadow lover. I love eyeshadow. I like exploring eyeshadow. I like having variety and wearing something different every day. And I'm okay with having more of a collection, more of a collector's mindset when it comes to eyeshadow. And I'm more comfortable with the fact that I'm never going to use it all or hit pan on most of it. When it comes to complexion, I already sort of knew those were boring categories for me, and I just need to find something that works best. But one thing that was more unexpected that I learned was that even for blush, highlighter, and lipstick, I think I kind of know what I like and know what I want. And I don't need a lot of variety in those categories. At the end of last year and at the beginning of this year, I was buying and desiring a lot of lip products, and then finding that the ones that attracted me always ended up looking the same. I think I've got a much more level head about those things than I did before the no buy, and it was really helpful to put a pause on that kind of consumption. But the most important aspect and result of my no buy so far has been that I have forced myself to sit inside of desire without acting on it. And I think this is so huge, so crucial, and people don't talk about this enough. People recently have been talking about de-influencing, but a lot of that has just been telling you why a product is bad, why you shouldn't want a product. When actually, I think the real de-influencing we need is how to want a product and not buy it. That's much more relevant, and it's much more difficult. And the fact is, like, just because you want something doesn't mean you should buy it. I think in North America, or at least in non-rural North America, we live in a world of artificial abundance. There's new makeup releases all the time. The internet, the stores are full of it. There's a million products in every category. We know the makeup market is saturated, and almost all of that is available to us here in North America. I live in Canada right now. I used to live in the States. It's even more true for the US. But even for Canada, most places ship to us. Like, we just have so much access. And, the fact is, this abundance, it's not real. Like, the planet can't support our level of consumption. There's also people within the supply chain that we impact when we consume. And even on a personal level, if you can't afford that makeup, you can still access it by using a credit card, even though that's going to be, at the detriment of your own future. So for us, I think it's very, very important to learn to live inside abundance and desire and not be constantly consuming. Before my no-buy, I had entered a pattern where I didn't know how to handle desire. I would have a desire, it would overwhelm and consume me until I acted on it, until I purchased it and brought that thing into my life. And I was self-aware this whole time. I knew that my desire was going to be immediately replaced by another desire once it was fulfilled. But that didn't mean that I had the tools to handle it. And the idea of knowing that I would give in against my own will eventually, that it was inevitable, that was just not okay to me, and it's still not okay to me. I don't want to be captive to my desires, even at the expense of my own financial future, even at the expense of my own values. And I think it's important to remember that there's a footprint for our consumption, both at the end when our waste has to be disposed of, but also all the way back up the supply chain. There are people, there are extractive industries, there's exploitation, there's a big footprint on both ends of a product getting to us and leaving our life. Okay, again, I feel like the way I'm saying this in the video sounds kind of judgmental, and I really don't mean to shame people or judge or make people feel negatively about something that's really positive for them. I just think in my thinking about consumption, we hear people talk a lot about your own personal finances. I just don't think that's the only piece of the conversation, and I don't hear people always mention that any kind of consumption has an impact on other people, not just yourself. So I don't think makeup consumption is worse than other kinds of consumption. I just think that should be maybe part of the calculus when we're deciding how to move through the world. And since we can't always control what happens in the supply chain before something gets to us, one way that we can try to moderate our impact is just by consuming a little bit less. It's one of the reasons that I want to think critically about what I buy, and so it's relevant for me to why I went on a no-buy. So that's all I'm trying to say here. No shade. And of course, I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. And yeah, and I'm still struggling with these things. After the no-buy, I've bought a lot of makeup. So yeah, it's a whole process. It's a journey. So even if I haven't reset my brain, because I haven't, I'm gonna end the no-buy and I'm gonna consume a bunch of makeup. I do feel like I have stumbled across a strategy that's gonna work better for me in the future than trying to do a constant low buy. And so I'm leaning toward just continuing a cycle of no buys and more unrestricted buying, at least for the foreseeable future. Ideally, that will transition into no buys and low buys. And then obviously, moderation is good. I value moderation. And in the future, it would be great to be able to be on a constant low buy and be able to moderate myself. But realistically, that's just not where my brain is right now. It didn't work for me. I want to set myself up for success. So yeah, the no buy, it does force me to sit in that desire, but it also allows me to escape from the sort of agonizing decision of whether to buy something or not at any given moment on any given day. And that was a mindset that I felt was really destructive to me I'm really distracting, and I do still engage in shopping behaviors, and I think about what I'm gonna buy at the end of my no buy. And I'm comfortable with the fact that my eyeshadow collection is going to expand at the end of my no buy. There's lots of things that I've been researching, like seeing people talk about, and that I want to try. But I've still made a ton of progress. I have a much more level head about what it actually is going to be worth it to me to consume. This no buy is almost over. I have a month left to go, and probably by the time I post this, I will be closer to the end, if not at the end. But I did want to get these thoughts out, while they were current. But I will definitely be going on more no buys in the future. I personally find it really helpful to watch content from other people who are on no buys. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe. But I'm also nervous about heading back into consumption and making sure that I don't overconsume. So we'll see. This is not the end of this conversation here on my YouTube channel. To be fully transparent with you, there is an exception I'm considering making later today, actually. There's an eyeshadow palette that I want to order from Australia. It's a pre-order that ships in mid-July. My no buy ends August 6th, and I think there's no chance that it will arrive before my no buy ends. But if I order it after my no buy ends, I might move before it arrives. So I feel like these are good enough justifications that I could make a new exception and have it sort of arrive with my post no buy stuff in my post no buy life. Yeah, I may end up doing that. And I don't want to be disingenuous or say I'm on a no buy and then like make a million exceptions, and my brain wouldn't be able to handle that. I'm pretty all or nothing when it comes to these things, so I worry that exceptions will lead to me abandoning the no buy and going on a total binge. That's always a risk. But I also think like I've given up on the sort of like Hannah Louise Poston, Shauna Raipari style 12-month no buy, where it does just seem to, for some people, be this kind of rite of passage that you use to sort of reset everything, break your addiction, and come out clean, like you're a man now. That's not how it's been for me. Maybe it would be if I did 12 months, but maybe there are also just people that it's not going to work that way for them. So I'm no longer under illusions that this particular 6-month no buy is going to completely change my life. It's just the beginning of a journey of many years that is going to be a journey of repairing my relationship with makeup consumption. So that, I think, puts a little bit less pressure on the all or nothing, succeed or fail no buy mentality, if that makes sense. So I'm probably going to purchase that eyeshadow palette. It's probably going to arrive in August or September, and I will have still succeeded on my no buy. Thank you so much for watching this. Yeah, I'm still on this journey, and I have tons of ideas for content, both before my no buy ends and after, and I hope that you will stay along for the ride. Bye.